Happy Monday, everybody. Today's call is on perimenopause, training and nourishing your body through the shift. And I know Shalise and I are really excited to talk through this topic with all of you. So to start it off, let's get our disclaimer. Disclaimer, none of the information in this video is medical advice. This call is for informational purposes only, to have you get curious about your body and your symptoms and have a better understanding of the mechanisms that are going on behind perimenopause. And then hopefully after this call, you'll go read even more about this topic from reputable sources, and you'll work alongside a doctor to come up with a wellness plan that makes sense for you, that makes your life much more tolerable and, dare I say it, enjoyable during this time. So with that being said, I am 32 years old. I am not experiencing any symptoms of perimenopause. I still have a regular menstrual cycle. So that's the perspective that I'm coming from, of where I look at these things as something that I will be experiencing in the somewhat near future. Shalise, what's your story?
So I am actually post-menopause. And really didn't figure that out because I had the IUD, all those kind of things, got my IUD taken out, and I hadn't had my period for years. And this was when I was competing in bodybuilding too. So, so I had my IUD taken out and never got my period back ever. And so for a while, we just thought it was, all my hormones were tanked. So then it was like, okay, well, let's fix that first before, we say this is definitely menopause. And then over time, between all my hormones coming back with lab work and stuff and my cholesterol levels, and they're like, yeah, you're in menopause. So for me, this was, how old am I now? 46. I was 44 in menopause. And I'm like, no way. There's no way at 44 I'm in menopause. Or have hit menopause. And then, so we're there post-menopause and living life. Fun times.
Right on. So yeah, two different perspectives here from each of us, but both of us are very passionate about helping women feel their best and get their body to the healthiest spot it's ever been in, regardless of your age. So we'll start off today just with our first question. When does perimenopause begin? So the majority of women will experience symptoms of perimenopause in their 40s, I want to say, but it can happen anytime between your late 30s and late 40s when you're starting. And then the natural follow-up question to that is, when does perimenopause end? So it ends once you've hit menopause, which is defined as that 12 months without a period. It's typically what people will say. And that average age in the US is, I believe, 51, 50, around there. So perimenopause is a process. I mean, if you think about the difference between that start and end time, it's something that happens over a matter of years. And it is a slow shutdown of your reproductive system that can cause symptoms even before your periods have become irregular. And oftentimes these symptoms, they like fly under the radar and they just feel like stress or aging or lifestyle issues instead of what they actually are, which is a new hormonal phase for your body. So this is exactly why it's so super important to understand what's going on and work with your body instead of fighting it during this time period. It's not just like an on-off switch that you can play with. You're going to be there for a couple years, so you might as well try to make the best of it, whatever that means for you. Shalise laughs.
I'm just laughing, whatever that means for you. Yeah. So much fun. All the changes in your body. Yeah. Your body not cooperating the way it used to.
Puberty round 2.
Yeah.
So before we go into like our whole trainer coach spiel for you of like what to do, I'm going to do a quick overview of what perimenopause is and what happens during it. So we'll talk about hormones and symptoms for a little bit, and then we'll talk about like what to do about it. So what happens during perimenopause? And Shalise, at any point during this, feel free to chime in, interrupt if there's anything that you want to comment more on or give a little bit more information on. I would love that. So I'm gonna go off and you interrupt me if you need to.
Sounds good.
So us ladies, we're born with a fixed number of follicles in our ovaries. And over time, the number of follicles and the quality declines. So as we age, the follicles that we have, they decrease in number for our menstrual cycle, but then also in quality and the sensitivity of those follicles to follicle stimulating hormone will decrease. And that's kind of like that first thing that you're going to have happen in your body is your essentially like your cycle is going to start slowly breaking down because your follicles are not as receptive to this hormone. So when you're younger, the menstrual cycle is very predictable. Follicle stimulating hormone will stimulate follicles to mature, and then that prompts ovulations. And then that will continue the menstrual cycle month after month. We had a whole call on this, so we won't go into detail on that. But during perimenopause, things are much less predictable. So as your body begins a new menstrual cycle and it starts to go through its normal process, there could be different scenarios that occur due to this like increasing irregularity of the follicle quality that you have and how responsive those follicles are to FSH. So you might have one cycle and you could have multiple follicles that respond to FSH, and you'll have a higher than normal estrogen spike than if you were to go through a normal cycle. In a different cycle, you could have no follicles respond, and that would lead to a cycle that has lower estrogen. So at that point, you'd be experiencing symptoms from low estrogen. And then maybe next time you have a follicle that starts developing, but it doesn't fully mature. So you have an anovulatory cycle, which means that you don't ovulate during that cycle. And that doesn't stimulate progesterone to rise. So you have a cycle where there's low progesterone. So that is like 3 totally different scenarios for your hormones that can occur. I mean, for the sake of this example, one after another. So one month you're like, oh, I have these symptoms. And the next month you're like, oh, I have these symptoms too. And then the following month you're like, wait, I've never seen these ones before. What in the heck is going on with my body? So that feeling of like, I guess what I'm trying to say is like all of these high and low values for your hormones during your cycle have different symptoms. So that can explain why perimenopause feels like this wild ride and like a guessing game when it comes to your symptoms. Seems like nothing is familiar and that it's always changing. And that's kind of because it is.
Yeah. And then the other thing you have to remember too is, I mean, like sometimes you'll go, sorry if you said this, but sometimes you'll go like a couple weeks and you'll have your period. And then sometimes you'll go several months and not have your period and then all of a sudden have it. And so there's that piece too. And then you're like, what the hell is happening? What's going on? And so, yeah, body is trying to figure shit out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, I mean, when your period is getting irregular, that can definitely be a telltale sign. And I mean, but if you are doing something like bodybuilding, you might not even notice, you know, if you're not tuned into this and thinking like, hey, I'm in my mid 30s, I should probably start like looking for any kind of signs or you might not even be tracking your period. You might be on birth control. Like you mentioned, Shalise, having an IUD or something like that, where you're not even aware of your cycle or your body isn't even going through one. So when you stop, you might be surprised to find out that you don't have one or it is irregular.
Yep.
Yeah. So
and then the other thing too is like, I mean, there's things like amenorrhea and other things that would cause irregular cycles too. So there, I mean, or, you know, stress, all sorts of different things. So, you know, is it just that, or is it actually perimenopause? You know, I mean, there's so many symptoms of perimenopause that could be other things too. So yeah, it's confusing. It's very confusing. This is where, like, again, I'm a huge advocate of lab work and trying to figure stuff out and finding patterns and all those things too. So lab work.
Yeah. I was about to mention that so when I was saying, like, explaining that you could have cycles where, oh, estrogen's a little bit higher or it's a little bit lower or progesterone's a little bit lower, those values that I'm talking about, and the things that you're experiencing perimenopause are natural and normal variations in those hormone levels. And they may not necessarily indicate that you have an actual like deficiency or excess of a specific hormone. Instead, you could think of it like a scale, and it's just that the scale's off balance. So those like unpredictable changes that are happening with estrogen and progesterone during your perimenopausal cycles, those are the reasons for the perimenopause symptoms. And it doesn't mean that, like, oh, well, if you were to get labs done, for example, your estrogen might be at a somewhat normal level, but compared to progesterone, it is like dominant, right? So when you're looking at labs, I know, Shalise, you mentioned this a lot, that it's important to look at the whole picture and not just one value.
Yes.
And that applies here.
Yes. And something I will say till I'm blue in the face is when your doctors and I'm not saying all doctors do this, so let's start there, but there are some doctors out there that just look at those numbers individually and don't look at the ratio. So make sure that you understand as a woman that you need to be looking at the ratio. And if you don't know what that is, I mean, there is a estrogen to progesterone ratio calculator on Google it, and it'll tell you exactly what that means. So if you want to look yourself, you can always go and Google it and find out whether you're progesterone dominant or estrogen dominant. And remember, again, on lab work too, because yes, your hormones are fluctuating all the time. And again, while we're going through our whole cycle and everything. So the best time to get your lab work done is day 19 through 21. Because that is when it's the most consistent. So if you're going to take it, on day 17, then there's a really good chance you might be. Now I always forget if you're going to be higher on estrogen or lower on estrogen. But
Higher.
no, that 19 through 21, 19 through 21 is going to be like the sweet spot to go do it, because then yes, your lab work is going to be off, and that's why it was really hard for me. I'll just use me personally. Because I never knew when my cycle was, because it never came back after removing my IUD. So I'm like, I don't know what's happening or when it's happening, or I have no idea where I'm at. So that's why it did take several years. It took, I think, 2 years before everything was kind of okay. One, you still haven't had your period. Your lab work looks good. And then, like I said, we had to finally look at my cholesterol to figure it out. So there's so much to look at within your lab work. So make sure you're working with somebody who takes everything into account when looking at your stuff. And that's why I'll always ask my clients too, please share this with me so I can talk to you through it too, because sometimes those doctors don't give it a thorough look either. So I can kind of look at it from another eye and go, okay, well, how about we ask them this, or let's talk about this. And I'll give them things to help them advocate for themselves.
Mm-hmm. So much of it is just giving people permission to ask the question, because, or just not even knowing what question to ask, right? Like we can give you the question to ask, and you can go to your doctor and say those things, and even call us on the phone while you're there, and I'll ask questions. I don't care.
Absolutely.
So the doctor should be able to answer to anybody that you give permission to have access to your medical information. So, yeah. So as you continue aging, there will be more of those anovulatory cycles, the ones where you don't ovulate, so progesterone does not rise. So over time, that leads to longer periods of low progesterone. And then I mentioned this becomes like relative estrogen dominance. So you just have more estrogen and it's not balanced with progesterone anymore. And just all of these fluctuations that you have with estrogen and progesterone during this time, they impact like the normal communication that your brain has with your reproductive system. So all of these hormones are doing a bunch of stuff in your body all the time. So that normal rhythm that you have in your menstrual cycle gets interrupted, and your brain is like, yo, this is not normal. And it tries to stabilize this unpredictable system. And unfortunately, it fails because it is biology. It's just what's going to happen. The brain's going to try, but it's not going to be able to do it. So you're going to just feel these different symptoms depending on how your hormone levels have changed during each cycle that you have. And really, all of this is just a super long, complicated way of saying that the normal balanced system and cycle of the menstrual cycle has become less stable and it's starting to shut down.
Are you going to cover some of the like general symptoms? Because we keep talking some of these symptoms. Are you going to bring it up? Okay, I'll let you talk then.
Right now.
Fantastic.
Segue. Symptoms.
Yeah, good. I totally planned that.
Yes. Yes, you did. So yeah, those are the effects that's actually what is happening with your hormones. But then what does that mean for the symptoms that you're going to feel? You'll feel some changes in your mood. So estrogen interacts with some feel-good chemicals, you want to call them that, serotonin, dopamine, that are going to impact your mood and your motivation. So if your estrogen levels are unstable, you might experience mood swings or irritability or anxiety. And guess what? Progesterone also interacts with certain receptors that help calm your nervous system. So when progesterone is low, you might feel more anxious and have interrupted sleep or experience mood instability. So mood is going to be a big thing that will change. And I guess like mood slash energy, we could say. You want to talk more about that, Shalise?
I mean, I don't know what else to say about that. I mean, you're gonna be more irritable. Yeah. I mean, you're gonna have like these random feelings of like, I'm about to cry my eyeballs out, and then you'll be fine the next day, or a couple hours later. So yeah.
You'll experience changes in your body. So hormonal fluctuations are responsible for the one that I think the most people hear about: hot flashes, thermoregulation, a little wonky during this period. You'll potentially experience some symptoms of decreased insulin sensitivity. So we've talked about insulin sensitivity before. If you want to know more about that, go check out that call. How the body's going to handle glucose and store fat will be affected. Your body composition. So as estrogen levels decline, your body's going to be less efficient at building and maintaining muscle. So there's a lot of changes that you might notice with your body. Things that I would say most people would think are really negative. So you will experience changes to your sleep. This is a big one. Your sleep quality will decrease from not only the symptoms that we mentioned, so like hot flashes waking you up, but also the hormones. Like low progesterone means that you're a little bit less calm. Your stress tolerance will probably go down along with that irritability, and kind of like the whole cocktail of all of this. Your cortisol might be a little bit elevated, and just your cortisol response in general might be more exaggerated or prolonged, to where it takes you a lot longer to come down after a spike in cortisol. And then because you have changes to your sleep, you then have these like additional symptoms that will compound. And I think that's like a huge point that maybe not everyone might realize. So when you do have poor sleep, that reduces your insulin sensitivity even more. So that's compounding. You get worse recovery from your training. So that compounds on the fact that it's harder to maintain and build muscle. And then your hunger and satiety signals are a little bit messed up when you do get poor sleep. So that makes you a little bit even more hungry, and you might have more cravings, and your body is already having this like change in how it is handling glucose. So like, I mean, especially let's just say simple sugars that you're consuming, things that are spiking your blood sugar, and where any sort of excess calories are going to be stored as fat, if they're going to go, like where they're going to go and how they're going to be utilized. So that's a lot to deal with all at once. And then the last one I'll mention is just changes to cortisol production. So just like your sleep quality, when your cortisol is elevated, that will amplify some of the other symptoms that you are experiencing. So You have all of these symptoms. Yay. What are we going to do about it?
Okay, so one thing I also want to bring up, since we talked about cortisol and progesterone, so this is a conversation I have with my ladies at night all the time, or not at night. I do not have conversations with them at night on their check-ins about sleeping at night. Like when they're saying like, oh, I'm waking up in the middle of the night all the time. Like I have to do this, whatever. Okay, start figuring out what time you're waking up, because what time you're waking up, if it's a consistent pattern, we can kind of narrow it down to whether it's a cortisol thing or a progesterone thing. So that is really key in kind of understanding what's happening with your symptoms, and kind of, before we look at like stuff like HRT or whatever, like, can we manage it from a different standpoint? Or is it going to, like, is that something where I start to suggest, okay, maybe it is time we look at going to get your lab work done, get your get your hormones checked, and see if HRT is going to work for you. So, like I said, just start tracking when you're waking up at night, so that you can kind of start narrowing down those things, because like that timing at night is a really big aha for your coaches to kind of narrow it down.
Mm-hmm. And like having awareness of your symptoms, tracking anything that you're experiencing, really, and timing is super helpful. And I like what you said, Shalise, about like not immediately just going to the HRT route. Like we should manipulate as many lifestyle factors as we can before we get to that point, because you never know how much your symptoms could improve from some of the changes that you make to your lifestyle.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, I've actually had that conversation with a client just recently, where I was like, okay, so what are we eating at night? Let's look at what we're eating at night. And usually it was the nights that she was waking up in the middle of the night were nights where she would eat lean meat and carbs. And I'm like, let's switch it up. Let's try a fattier meat where it's digests a little bit slower, and see if you sleep through the night. Guess what happened? She started sleeping through the night. So, I mean, just
Wow.
little changes like that can have a huge effect on those things too. So it could totally be just whatever you're eating at night too.
How crazy.
Yeah.
That's awesome. She's like, okay, I'll have a fattier cut of meat. Don't
Yeah.
have to tell me twice.
Yep.
How cool. Yeah. I when I was thinking about like how I wanted to approach this call, I was thinking that it would be cool. Like, I'm curious to know how many people already know like what they should do. So we'll talk about what we should do, but I also want to mention what not to do, because let's just start there. So if you start experiencing these symptoms in perimenopause, things that you might start noticing: you are gaining weight easier, you are noticing more fat in your midsection, like we said, changes to sleep, all these things. And you are just feeling more irritable, more stressed, like you can't relax, like you're exhausted at the end of the night, but can't sleep at the same time, like all of these things. I think typically people go the route of like, okay, well, I need to do more. I need to do more because whatever I'm doing is not enough, because I'm still gaining weight, or I'm still like not sleeping, or, I'm not tired enough at night. I need to do more cardio. So things not to do as you're experiencing these changes and you think it's due to perimenopause: under eating. Don't just keep eating less and less and less. Dieting is a stress to your body. And so if you continue doing it, you're just going to increase that stress load. It's not going to help with your cortisol. It's not going to help with your metabolism. It's not going to help with building and maintaining muscle. So that's something that can actually compound some of the symptoms that you're having. So Shalise, I know this is a tough conversation to have with a lot of clients, but when you're talking to people who are not eating enough to support their body, how do you have that conversation, especially when it relates to perimenopause, and they have this like, they've kind of already decided like, I'm not losing it, or I'm not gaining any more weight, like this needs to stop, right?
Yeah, honestly, it is one of the most challenging conversations and challenging times of being a coach, because it's hard to tell people to do less, because they freak out. Like, absolutely, that's not going to work. You're going to tell me to eat more and do less, and like, how's that? Like, they can't wrap their brain around it, because what do we hear all the time? Eat less and do more to lose weight, right? Calories in, calories out, all those kind of things. We hear that, and yes, in the perfect world, 20-year-old body, sure, those things work. But when we're dealing with our hormones as a female, it is very different. Yes, it's calories in, calories out. However, there is this caveat of, yeah, sometimes our hormones are going to fuck that up. Excuse my language. So yeah, I mean, I still, Taylor, I haven't even figured it out yet. Like, there's like some clients I've had that are like, okay, like, your coach, I'll trust you.
Yeah.
And it's helped and it has worked. But I will tell you that there are so many people and because it's one of those things that doesn't happen immediately, it's even harder to get them to believe and to trust and to kind of go, okay, you're right. Like, this is definitely working. This is happening. It's just one of those things, like, just trust me. And that trust is so hard, because whether it's been like, like working with a coach before and they said the same thing and it didn't work, or, like I said, all the stuff we see on social media, but all this stuff on social media tells me this. So it is, until they really like do it and see that it does make a difference. That's the only way to do it. Like, there's no believing and trusting until they see the results, and it does take time. And honestly, I was one of those people too with my current coach post bodybuilding too, because I'll do you mind if I share my story really quick?
Sure. Yes.
So again, dealing with all this hormonally and everything, I also had a bunch of gut issues. So that's another thing. If your hormones are off, gut is probably off too. So we start there. That's why I said start with food always, because it's usually, that's the place. Food is medicine. But the first thing he did was put me in the driver's seat. I'm the driver. Let me drive. Like, give me the keys to the car. I'm like, let go. And I went from,
did you pinch onto them as long as you could?
yes. I'm like, okay, like, nothing else has worked at this point. And I know he's a super genius, so I'm gonna listen to him, right? So as a bodybuilder, I went from training 5-6 days a week, and he said 3 days a week. I'm like, excuse me, what? Like, no, no, that doesn't work for me. It's 5 to 6 days a week for 8 years, and he said 3 days a week, and I was like, shit. And then no cardio. He's like, you're walking only. It's steps only. And I'm like, wait, what? Like, I questioned it too, and I'm a coach and I do this all the time with clients. And I was like, really? Okay, just steps. I'm like, there's no way this is going to work, because my body is so used to go, 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 go all the time. I know I'm going to balloon up. This is not a good idea. And so it did. It took me several months to kind of like, okay, I'm just going to trust this and do good. And he fed me, and I had more fats than I've ever had in my life. And ever in the 8 years I competed, like, watching that number keep going up to like 65 grams, 70 grams. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then, and the carbs, the amount of carbs, and my protein went down, actually, because that was a stress on my body too, especially with gut issues going on. So it was very eye-opening to me. Even, again, trying to talk my clients into this stuff, it was very eye-opening to me too, to realize that that's exactly what my body needed, because it was so under stressed. My hormones were wonky and trying to figure themselves out. I'm on HRT, all the things. And that's what we kind of needed to do, is we needed to bring that stress down off of my body for it to respond. And I don't know if you guys know, so my coach is Austin Stout, just so you guys know. He posts a lot of great content, but then it goes back to me always thinking, I don't know if you guys know Brandon DeCruz. Do you know who he is? who he is, Taylor?
Mhm. Yeah.
So he has a great podcast, Chasing Clarity, but he puts out a shit ton of educational stuff on social media. You guys should follow him if you're not. He has the best line that I use all of the time. A healthy body is a responsive body. If your body on the inside is healthy, it will respond on the outside. If things are not happening on the outside the way you want them to, look on the inside, because that's where it is. It's not, you can't see the stuff on this inside and what's going on. So if it's not healthy on the inside, you're not going to look healthy on the outside. And it's not, your body's not going to respond. So it's hard. It's hard to be told to back off, and it's hard to back off. But being one of those people who had a hard time doing that and seeing that it worked, I trust the process. Trust it, because sometimes that's exactly what your body needs. You can't keep pushing and bringing your body to that. Like, there's so much stress on your body with your hormones trying to figure out what's going on, the stress of the exercise, of doing more cardio, more lifting, the stress of under eating. That's just, like you said, stress on your body. All of these things are stresses. Your body can't differentiate between being under fueled and being chased by a bear. It just knows that something is going wrong. And so it's a stress on your body no matter what. So you have to pay attention to those. If you're seeing all these signs and symptoms, then that's time to go, okay, body, I'm listening. Let me know what's going on. So pay attention. And I know less is hard, but sometimes it's exactly what you need.
Mm-hmm. The idea of listening to your body when it's not responding the way that you want it to, and seeing that as a sign instead of just getting frustrated and pushing harder, that's like the wisdom. That's the little nugget that
Absolutely.
Gotta listen. Can't always push. Feels like you can, but then you pay for it later.
Yep.
So under eating is one that we talked about. That's one stress that you can add onto your body during this time. High intensity exercise. So what kind of exercise do you usually prescribe, Shalise? Is it based on the client and like what their previous load was? Because like every starting point is different, right? So like for you, when you were training 5 or 6 days a week, going down to 3 was fine. But for somebody who normally trains 3, do you drop that? Do you keep it? Like, what's your normal go-to starting point for people?
That is definitely, it's a depends question.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it depends on what their training already looks like. If they're doing, 3 days of OTF, wait, is it OTF? Orange Theory?
Orange Theory, yeah.
Yeah. Or, classes like that, then we switch things up for sure. It's just, it's taking a look at what they're already doing and making adjustment, seeing if it is adjustments in that. It might not be their training that needs the adjustment. It could be something totally different. But when it comes to training, I mean, still making sure that strength training is a priority, no matter what, at least 3 days a week. And so if you're doing 3 days a week, I wouldn't do body part splits 3 days a week, because you're not hitting it and your body parts enough, But if you're doing like an upper, lower, and total body, or total body, something like that, where you're hitting multiple body parts for those 3 days, perfect. That's exactly where we should be. So it depends on what your training already looks like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And like, this isn't necessarily an anti, what do you want? He's
very
at me.
excited about perimenopause.
I guess. He's like, I'm a boy.
I'm so excited about this.
And this isn't like an anti-cardio thing. Cardio is good for you. You should still be doing cardio, but strength training is increasingly important during this time because of the reasons we mentioned, that it is harder to build and maintain muscle. And we're going to talk a little bit later about some of the long-term effects of this, like shutting down of your reproductive system that happens. But Okay. Not saying that cardio is bad, but cardio is a tool that should not be used for fat loss or weight management in perimenopause. Is that something? Could we agree on that?
Yes. Yes. Yeah, you have to remember. So I tell people this all the time. Cardio is exactly what it says it is. It is for your heart health. That's what cardio stands for. It, yes, 100% makes your heart healthy. It is not the key to fat loss. So yeah, doing more is not generally the best. And that's why, like I said, like with me personally, I went down from 5 days a week to no cardio period at all to just doing steps to bring the stress down off of my body. So when you're dealing with those hormonal fluctuations, we need to find ways to bring that stress down. And you cannot, again, I think we say this all the time, Taylor, underestimate how important walking is and just steps and getting like focusing on your NEAT more than cardio. So
Yep. Some other things I had written down here for additional stresses for sleep. We talked about that. So if you can optimize your sleep hygiene and your sleep routine, that's really good. And like what Shalise mentioned, if you're working with a coach, mentioning to them when you're waking up, trying different things to help keep you asleep. There are things you can do with your nutrition, potentially even some supplements that you can add that would help with sleep. Just stress in general, like if you have stressful situations in your life, see if you can improve those in some way, or add in like very intentional quiet time or meditation or any other sort of stress reliever that can balance that so that you're not feeling like up to here all the time.
No.
And then alcohol and stimulants. What's your take on this, Shalise?
I would highly suggest that if you are high stress, that limit your caffeine. I'm not saying you have to get rid of it, but limit your caffeine because those stimulants just in themselves are going to heighten that. And then alcohol. Everyone's like, oh, but it helps me sleep. Okay, might help you fall asleep, but it affects your sleep while you're sleeping. You don't get into that deep REM sleep. So you're not getting the quality sleep that you should be getting during that time. So like I said, yeah, it might be able to make you pass out and fall asleep, but that sleep is not good quality sleep. So I don't know how far you want me to go into the tangent on alcohol, so I'll leave it on that one.
Okay. We should do a call on that.
We should actually.
We can put that in
I
May.
was just gonna say that too.
Yeah, I'll write that down. Yeah, next week. So if you guys are interested in all things sleep, that's actually our call for next week. So we'll go into more detail on sleep next week. But I agree. I would say there's no reason for alcohol or stimulants. And there may be some benefits, like perceived benefits, or in like specific scenarios. Like I know we talked with Damien about some of the benefits of caffeine in certain doses. So I'm not denying that those exist, but for women in perimenopause that are otherwise healthy, that are trying to improve their symptoms, most likely you would benefit from cutting both out completely. Not even moderation, because I think for a lot of people, moderation is more than what moderation should actually be.
Yeah.
So
And again, I'm going to share a real world experience if you don't mind.
please do.
So this is one thing I brought up years ago when I was when I just left competing. Part of the reason I left competing was that year, tons of anxiety attacks or panic attacks. I'm not sure which one. I was having attacks. It affected my sleep. It affected my job because I would have them in the middle of training clients. And when you can't control your body like that is the scariest experience ever. One of the big things I ended up doing was I got rid of my pre-workouts altogether. Because I was training for shows. So, very high stress, doing all the things, cardio, the workouts, all of that. And taking pre-workouts with caffeine. And that's when I noticed I would get set off the most, was when I would add stimulants.
Mhm.
I went a non-stim pre-workout and it helped. So I would highly suggest non-stim pre-workouts, especially if you're already caffeine sensitive. And here's the thing, you guys, I never used to be caffeine sensitive. I used to drink Mountain Dews on a daily basis, in my 20s. Like literally, that's what I had for lunch. And so caffeine did not affect me at all. As you get older, you become more sensitive to these things, and it might affect you differently. A lot of things affect you differently. Even your food affects you differently. Like you could eat things, 10 years ago that you now all of a sudden can't eat. So things change. So you're like, but I've always been able to drink caffeine or coffee or sodas or whatever. Okay, but your body and your physiology changes. So you might not be able to anymore and get away with it. So if that's another thing, if you are, well, that's a sleep thing, but if you are struggling to sleep, look at what time you're drinking your caffeine, and either one, get rid of it completely, titrate off of it, or push it earlier to the day and try not to have it after a certain time of day. Because I mean, it is definitely big, I would say, no when you're having anxiety issues and stress issues in the first place.
It is a big no-no.
My super smart sounding suggestion there. Big no.
It's true. Okay, let's see. What else do we want to cover here? Yeah, I think you kind of already mentioned, Shalise, that like things that you may have been able to do before, now during perimenopause will have a much more noticeable negative impact than it may have had before. So it is worth considering tapering down on those things or eliminating them completely, so that you can feel better. And this might be something where you cut it out and you feel it pretty much immediately, like your client falling asleep with the fats and before bed, or it could be something that takes a couple months, but then over time you start noticing like, hey, I haven't had this thing happen to me in a really long time. Or you go back, let's say like you did cut out caffeine and then it's been, a month or two that you haven't had it and you end up having it again. You're like, oh, yeah, I want a coffee today. And you get one and you have this really negative reaction to it. That will prove to you that like what you were doing was actually helping and matters. So
And another thing I would like to say about that too is know that some of these changes might just be temporary too. It doesn't mean like it'll forever not be able to be a thing for you, like the caffeine or a certain food or whatever. But until your body is feeling better, temporarily get rid of some of those things just to see how your body changes and feels. And then, slowly add those things back and see if that still can continue to be a part of your life, or maybe it really honestly can't anymore, kind of thing. But all of these things are very temporary. It's about taking care of your body and where your body's at that moment, especially like in phases like perimenopause and then rolling into menopause and all that. So much is changing. So again, it's all very temporary. So don't like, oh, I'm never gonna be able to do this again. Because like, again, real world example, I thought I would never be able to eat cheese again. I'm fine. I can eat it again because everything is going well on the inside. So like those things can change. You just have to be patient, very, very patient. And again, listen to your body.
Mm-hmm. As just out of curiosity, as part of your gut protocol, did you cut out like dairy, all the normal like inflammatories like dairy, gluten, added sugars? Did you do all of those? Wow.
I did. Yep.
That is a commitment, and you earned that.
Yeah. So I will tell you guys, like, honestly, I feel that was more strict and more like that was a tougher protocol than bodybuilding is. Because it's not only just your total change in food, it's the supplements that go along with it, because each part of a gut protocol has its own phase of supplements that you're adding to kill things or reintroduce things and all, to heal the gut. Now we're trying to, I don't know, I don't know, there's all these different phases, or well, 3 different phases that you're going through. And it's like, make sure you're eating this and taking this and, you know, all these supplements throughout the day. So it's just as intense as a bodybuilding diet type prep. I would say even a little bit more so, and you have to be on it. Like it's kind of one of those things like a bodybuilding prep. Like you can't just like, oh, I'm just going to go ahead and do this for this day, because you're just setting yourself back that many more, you know. So it's pretty intense. And again, it's patience. But if you want to feel better and you want to eat those foods again, totally worth it.
Yeah. So I want to mention some of the things that women, some of the things that women will be dealing with after menopause. So after those 12 months where you don't have a period and you have hit menopause, so you are postmenopausal, some of the things you'll be dealing with, just because of having a lower hormonal baseline for both estrogen and progesterone, will be some of the things that we actually said were symptoms of perimenopause, and now it just kind of becomes the new normal. So your lifestyle has to support your body through these things. Otherwise, you might begin to suffer from some of them. So I'm just gonna like list all of these, and then we can have a finishing statement of like what to do and why it's important. So it's going to be easier to gain fat in your midsection, harder to maintain muscle. You'll have an increased risk of osteoporosis, an increase in risk for cardiovascular disease, mood swings, like we talked about. Your circadian rhythm will probably be affected. Your stress tolerance will decline. Sleep quality will decline. Your appetite and satiety signals are affected. And then you might experience some elevated cortisol, likely as a byproduct of the other changes that you're experiencing. So really, any that you want to add to that list, Shalise?
No, I think you covered
Cool.
them.
So yeah, all of those things, I don't say it to be like doom and gloom, but I say it so that we can emphasize the importance of taking care of your health. And like, it is never too late to start. But the earlier that you start, the easier that the transition will be, the better you'll feel, the more you'll know about your body and understand how it reacts to certain things, the things you're surrounding yourself with, the things you're putting in it, all that. So I think our final recommendation here is kind of what we tell all of our clients to do, which is so funny. And like, you can get super granular, and there are specific supplements or foods like for each individual, but that would require a coach to actually work with you, and a doctor, and say like, okay, let's do this, let's avoid this, right? So there's very individual protocols that you could get into as far as like training and nutrition goes, but in general, strength training needs to be prioritized. Your muscles need stimulus in order to exist. If you want them to either be built or be maintained, they have to have that stimulus. That like added weight that you're using for strength training is also going to help keep your bone health really good. You're not going to have that risk of osteoporosis, combined with nutrition to be able to support that, whether it's protein, calcium, like all the things, making sure you're getting all the micronutrients that you need. Doing cardio that is lower intensity, whether that's just walking and getting steps each day, or if it's like structured cardio where you are walking and your heart rate is like within a range that gets you between like, I don't know, what would you say? Maybe like between the 40 to maybe 50 to 60% effort, like not really getting into the higher end to where it's like 60 to 70, but 50 to 60.
Yeah.
We're like moving your body.
Zone 3 if you go by zones.
Yeah. And eating balanced meals with protein and fats and carbs and fiber. learning what those look like, learning what those amounts look like, having a general idea of your maintenance calories so that you aren't just overfeeding yourself, but you're in this nice maintenance spot where your body is supported and you have energy to move. And we're just like a well-oiled machine is what we want people to be. That'll help with your body composition. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add to that. I mean, you covered.
There is one other thing I do want to mention that people might not think about, and it might not be as prevalent in people who are currently in perimenopause, but for my age group who's going to be entering perimenopause in probably the next decade or so, the content that you consume matters. Okay, people, like if you're falling asleep to murder documentaries, we got to talk. It's not helping you. It's not helping your sleep either. Like if you are scrolling constantly, if you're consuming a lot of like content that is triggering to you for whatever reason, like that is a stressor, and you have control over that. You can put the phone down. You can turn the TV off. You can choose to watch something that's a little bit more peaceful. If you guys don't know about this, there are people who take GoPros or something and they hike. They do 2-hour-long hikes. Sometimes they'll say hi to somebody, but that's the only voice in there. And they'll just do a hike. You can put that on in the background and it's just nature sounds. There's water flowing, the steps of feet crunching. It's better if you could go on the hike, sure. But like if you're making dinner and you want something on, and instead of putting on the Real Housewives of Mormontown, of what or whatever, you
I
can
love that
put
you don't
on
know that.
you can put on something that is actually going to help relax you and like let you chill. Okay, so that's something to consider, and it's a little bit more abstract, but it's one of the levers you can pull, and it does matter. It does make an impact. Like instead of adding, you don't always have to think about adding meditation or adding in these like mindfulness practices. You can think about like, what can I take out of my life that's currently adding to my stress? And guaranteed your phone is probably one of those things.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm off my soapbox now.
No, I love it.
Cool. That's all we got for you guys. If you want to find, oh, go ahead.
Sorry. I was gonna say, if like one thing to take from all of this right now, this whole discussion and everything is, I mean, like everything we've ever talked to and about before, you know, the strength training, you know, the progression with your workouts, watching your recovery, watching your sleep, watching your nutrition, everything we've ever said, like our message is always the same. It's start with those things first. And again, whether that's taking them away or adding them or refining them or making them more intentional, all of those things are going to be the big things in the end. Your daily habits are the big key things at the end. And as we get older, our body just doesn't do what it used to do when we were younger. Like, I know we say this all the time, and I hear it so many times from, you know, friends that go out and party. I just don't recover like I used to. No shit. That's your life too. That's your life is the same way. We don't recover like we used to. We can't train like we used to. We can't do what we used to do. So think of it, your body is not failing you and you're not failing your body. You just need to treat it differently. And we have to have new strategies and new changes for the body that we have now, not the body we once had, because it's very different. So, and again, that's where we help you as coaches, is to, okay, what can we do now? What are some of the shifts that we can make? And we help you kind of look at, we're another pair of eyes on that and how we can strategize what could work better for you.
Preach. Yep. Right on. If any of you guys want more content from us on Instagram, my handle is Taylor CE, TAYLORCE.
And I am at Shelace, SHELACE_IFBB Pro. And then our team one is team_iron_and_lace. You can find all of us there. All of these little snippets of these are there. So, and then obviously we have the YouTube channel that this is posted to too. Awesome.
Talk to you guys in a week. Next week, let me read my hip and trendy title here for you. The sleep advantage. It's the most underrated tool when it comes to seeing progress in the gym. Rest. So, it's for next week. Talk to you guys then.
Thanks for listening.